Good morning, students. This is your teacher, Mrs. Adanwosu. Last time we discussed on ECOWAS. Today we're going to continue on our international organization. Today's topic is going to be on the Commonwealth of Nations. Before we continue, we're going to look at the set objectives. Number one set objective is, at the end of this lesson, the student should be able to define Commonwealth of Nations. 2, they should be able to identify conditions for membership and explain its aims and objectives. 3, the student should be able to highlight its characteristics and the organs of Commonwealth of Nations. 4, the student should be able to explain the benefits members of Commonwealth of Nations get and its achievements. 5, they should be able to critically evaluate the problems facing Commonwealth of Nations. Having given out the set objectives, now let's look at the way we can achieve these set objectives. Number 1, introduction. We have to look at the meaning of Commonwealth of Nations, and it means the association of independent countries and territories that were formerly under the British Empire. It is a way of maintaining their ties with their colonial master, Britain. You will agree with me that Britain colonized a lot of countries. Coming home in West African sub-region, Britain colonized 4 notable countries: Nigeria, Ghana, Gambia, Sierra Leone. She didn't stop there. She colonized more than 53 countries in the world. That makes them the colonial master. Now, let us look at the origin of Commonwealth of Nations. The origin of Commonwealth of Nations could be traced back to 1907. When representative government of 5 countries, that is the founding members of this organization, namely Australia, Canada, Ireland, New Zealand, and South Africa, they met for the first time. And in 1926, the meetings became regular. And they were the 5 founding fathers, as I told you, that formed Commonwealth of Nations. In 1939, the modern Commonwealth began when the British Parliament created statutes of Westminster by removing the former title, in quotes, British Commonwealth of Nations. The organization is composed of 5 countries presently, and this organization is headed by the British monarch or the British Crown in the person of Queen Elizabeth II. The headquarters of Commonwealth of Nations is in London. Meetings of the body are held once every 2 years and attended by the head of state and government of member states. It is important to note that Ireland ceased to be a member of Commonwealth in 1949, while South Africa was expelled from the association because of apartheid policies in 1961. Now, let's look at the conditions or requirements for membership of the Commonwealth of Nations. That is, before you become a member, what and what is expected of you? Number one, conditions. The prospective country must at one time or the other be a British colony. That is, before you become a member, you must have been colonized by Britain at one time or the other. That's what makes you a member. You are now qualified to be a member of Commonwealth of Nations. Number two qualification is that such country that wants to join this association must have attained full political independence. They will not in any way be under anybody or colonized by any country. Rather, they must have attained full political independence. Number three conditions of membership is the country must not practice racial discrimination in any form. If you look at the membership of Commonwealth of Nations, like I told you, there are 54 member countries, and majority are from the Europe. You get from Asia, you get from Latin America and Africa. It does not matter your race, it does not matter your color, but if you must be a member of Commonwealth of Nations, there shouldn't be any form of racial discrimination. Number four says such an aspiring country must be prepared to accept British monarch as the permanent head of Commonwealth of Nations. Now, let's quickly look at the aims or objectives of Commonwealth of Nations. Number one, to promote scientific cooperation among member nations. 2, to encourage defense cooperation among member nations. 3, to create channel of information exchange among member nations. 4, to respect and protect the territorial integrity and sovereignty of member nations. 5, to maintain socio-cultural and sporting links among member nations. 6, to promote educational assistance in form of scholarship, technical knowledge, and facilities for development. Having itemized the aims and objectives of Commonwealth of Nations, let's quickly look at the characteristics of Commonwealth of Nations. The first characteristics is that English language is the official language for all members of the Commonwealth of Nations. That means having been colonized by Britain and having been imbibed their language, you must speak English in the meeting. 2, English common law is operational in all Commonwealth of Nations as well as the British values which have been accepted by members. 3, all members must accept the British Crown as the permanent head of the Commonwealth of Nations. 4, member nations participate in Commonwealth Games. 5, member nations exchange high commissioners. To expatiate on this point, member nations, when we say exchange high commissioners, if Nigeria, for example, establishes a high commission office in Abuja for Sri Lanka, for example, it is expected that Sri Lanka should establish a high commission for Nigeria in their home country. That is what we mean by exchange of high commissioners, vice versa. Number 6 says, the Conference of Prime Minister / Head of Government of member countries meet periodically. We said they meet once every 2 years, periodically. 7, there is also cooperation among member countries in the field of science, law, international affairs, trade, finance, and medicine. I will take it again. There is also cooperation among member countries in the field of science, law, international affairs, trade, finance, and medicine. That means being a member of Commonwealth of Nations, we will have this opportunity to be and interact with one another and get these benefits. Let's quickly look at the benefit of Commonwealth of Nations and its achievements. Number 1, common language. All the member nations speak English, and this facilitates interaction. I've explained before that the benefit of being a member of Commonwealth of Nations, you must speak English. And having been colonized by Britain, English spoken is part of the language that is used in the association. And this particular English language as an official language helps to interact, to facilitate interaction. Number 2, common legal system. We're looking at the benefits member nations get in being a member of Commonwealth of Nations. Common legal system. All the member countries have the same legal system. The practice of legal system that is practiced in Britain, it is also practiced in Nigeria, in Ghana, in Gambia, as the case may be. Number 3, Commonwealth scholarship to deserving students from member nations. There is scholarship Commonwealth Association gives to students from member nations, those that are intelligent, those that are interested. So you students, if you read hard, if you study hard, you might be one of the beneficiaries of this scholarship scheme from Commonwealth of Nations. Number 4, we're looking at the Commonwealth, the benefit we derive from being a member of Commonwealth. Financial assistance in form of loan, grants, and aids. Many developing countries, many third world countries that are members of this Commonwealth Association, they benefit one way or the other from the loan being given to them or grants and aids to help them to carry out their project in their home countries. Another benefit of Commonwealth is economic cooperation. Economic cooperation, that is trade by giving preferential tariff and concessionary terms of payments. If you're a member of Commonwealth, they will give you preferential tariff, they will give you concessional terms of payments. It makes trade easy for members of Commonwealth of Nations. Another benefit we derive from being a member of Commonwealth of Nations is sporting cooperation. All the Commonwealth nations meet every 4 years for sporting activity. I remember they have come to Nigeria for such games, and people benefited from such games. Again, there is technical cooperation. Member nations employ technical experts from other member nations to help them in their development programs. For example, if Nigeria needs help in the area of science and tech, it is expected that they can ask such help from India as a member. They can ask from Britain as their colonial master to render such technical experts to them. And this will help to increase their development programs. That's what we mean by technical cooperation. Again, another benefit we derive for being a member of Commonwealth of Nations is promotion of democracy and good governance. Now, Commonwealth of Nations, time without number, sponsor election observers. They send teams of observers to member countries to monitor their election time. They monitor their election. For example, in Nigeria, they used to come to Nigeria to monitor elections. They used to go to Zimbabwe. They have been to Angola, all the areas that are members of Commonwealth of Nations. Even in Uganda, after Idi Amin, they all sent their election observer teams to such countries to monitor election there and make sure that such election is free and fair without any hindrance. That is the benefit we derive from being a member of Commonwealth of Nations. Another important benefit we get from being a member of Commonwealth of Nations is military cooperations. Military cooperations. There is cooperation in the form of supply of equipment, technical advice, and training of personnel. Yes, Nigeria has benefited also from this particular military cooperation. Commonwealth have trained Nigeria troops. They have also helped in giving them equipment and giving out technical advice. Again, we have provisions of employment. This serves as an avenue of employment for many qualified citizens of member countries. It serves as an avenue, as an opportunity for employment for many qualified citizens of member countries. Another benefit we get from becoming a member of Commonwealth is the assistance to war-torn countries. Assistance to war-torn countries. Commonwealth of Nations assists it has rendered assistance to various war-torn devastated countries. A typical example is Sierra Leone. Where the Commonwealth as a body has rendered assistance to that country. Achievement of Commonwealth of Nations. You will agree with me that Commonwealth of Nations has contributed a lot to their members. For example, in Africa, Commonwealth of Nations has contributed a lot in dismantling apartheid policy system in South Africa. They contributed a lot in dismantling apartheid policy system in South Africa. If you flash back to the introduction, when I told you that in 1961, South Africa was expelled from being a member of Commonwealth of Nations, despite it being a founding member. Again, another achievement of Commonwealth of Nations is good relationship. Good relationship. Despite the challenge facing the organization, it has maintained good relationship among member states. People from one country can go to another country and live and earn a living. They have maintained good relationship among member states. Another achievement of Commonwealth is educational exchange. Educational exchange. It is estimated that Commonwealth organization has trained more than 46,000 students from member nations in universities under the Commonwealth Scholarship. I told you, if you study hard, if you perform well, you might be one of the beneficiaries. You might benefit from this scholarship scheme. You can imagine more than 46,000 students from member nations have benefited. They have studied, they have been trained in Commonwealth universities. Another achievement of Commonwealth of Nations is observance of election. Observance of election. The Commonwealth observe election in member countries. I told you they have, for example, in Nigeria, from 1999 till date, Commonwealth has been sending their team of observers to monitor election in Nigeria. They have also sent observers to Zimbabwe independent election in 1980. They also sent observers to monitor election in Uganda, see the first election after Idi Amin. So we can mention but a few. And another achievement of Commonwealth of Nations is promotion of sporting activities. Like we mentioned earlier, the friendly sporting activities has boosted friendly relationship among member states. The friendly sporting activities has boosted friendly relationship among member states. Now, let's look at the organs of Commonwealth of Nations. We have three basic organs. Number one is the Conference of Prime Minister and Heads of Governments. Conference of Prime Ministers and Heads of Governments. This conference meets periodically at locations on rotation basis. This Conference of Prime Ministers and Heads of Government meets periodically at locations on a rotation basis among the membership. It is the highest organ of the association. It is the highest organ of the association. They are responsible for the appointment of the Secretary General of the association. This organ is responsible for the appointment of the Secretary General of this association. They also approve budget of the organization. They also approve budget of the organization. They have power of sanction. They have power of sanction. This organ has the final decision. It is the final decision-making body. This organ is the final decision-making body and has the power to suspend a member that does not respect the objective of the organization. Conference of Prime Minister and Head of Government has the power to suspend a member that does not respect the organization, the objective of the organization. A typical example of such power, Nigeria was suspended Nigeria was suspended in 1995 for the abuse of human rights. Nigeria was suspended in 1995 for the abuse of human rights when they executed the Ogoni 9. When she executed the Ogoni 9. This organ also provides opportunity for consultation among members. This organ provides opportunity for consultation among members. The body also discusses problems affecting the organization. This organ also discusses problems affecting the organization and recommend measures to address such problems. And it recommends measures to address such issues. Another organ of the Commonwealth. Another organ of the Commonwealth is the Queen of England. The Queen of England is the ceremonial head who has the power to declare the conference open or closed. It means that before the conference will start, the Queen of England will come in person to declare the conference open. And when it's about closing, the Queen will close the conference. She can come in person or send a delegate or a representative. Another strong organ of the Commonwealth is the Secretariat. The Secretariat was established in 1965 and it is based in London. The headquarters of the Secretariat is in London. The Secretariat is headed by the Secretary General, who is in charge of the administrative function of the organization. The Secretariat is headed by the Secretary General, who is in charge of the administrative function of the organization. The Secretariat keeps the member states informed about development in the Commonwealth. The Secretariat keeps the member states informed about development in the Commonwealth. The Secretariat oversees the functioning of various bodies. The Secretariat oversees the functioning of various bodies, such as 1. Commonwealth Foundation. There is Commonwealth Foundation. It is the responsibility of the Secretariat to oversee the functioning of this foundation. 2. Commonwealth Universities. There is Commonwealth Universities. The Secretariat also makes sure that everything concerning the university, they go through it and oversee it. 3. Commonwealth Fund. Commonwealth Fund for Technical Cooperation. Commonwealth Fund for Technical Cooperation. It is also the responsibility of the Secretariat to oversee Commonwealth Fund for Technical Cooperation. Now, it is important for us to note that Nigeria Emeka Anyaoku was the Secretary General of Commonwealth of Nations from 1990 to 2000. Please, my students, it is important for you to note that Nigeria's Chief Emeka Anyaoku was the Secretary General of the Commonwealth of Nations from 1990 to 2000. Now, let's look at the functions of the Secretary General. Remember, we have the Secretariat and we have the head, who is the Secretary General. What is the function of the Secretary General of Commonwealth of Nations? A. The Secretary General prepares and presents reports on the state of the world. The Secretary must prepare and present reports on the state of the world. That means whatever that is happening in the world, it is the function of the Secretary General to bring it to the association. B. The Secretary General prepares and presents the annual budget to the organization. The Secretary General prepares and presents the annual budget to the organization. 3. That's C. The third function of the Secretary General, he arranges and organizes annual conference of its head of state and government. He arranges and organizes annual conference of the Prime Minister and head of state and government. 4. The Secretary General is in charge of the staff of the Commonwealth of Nations. He is in charge of the staff of the Commonwealth of Nations. It means that he has the power to employ. He has the power to dismiss. He can hire and fire members of staff of Commonwealth of Nations. Having gone through these topics, subheadings, let us look at the problems confronting Commonwealth of Nations. Now, I must tell you that most of the time in external exam, this type of problem, this type of question used to come out. What are the problems confronting Commonwealth of Nations? We have to look at it and analyze it and evaluate it and digest it. Number one problem that confronts Commonwealth of Nations is that this association has no charter. It has no charter like that of the United Nations, the UN, or the African Union, the AU, etc. There are no standard rules to regulate the governing or operation of this organization. It's a big problem. If there is no standard rules to regulate the governing and operation of this, member states will behave anyhow. They will know that they could not be held responsible if they go against such rules. It's a very big problem if there is no charter like that of the UNO or the AU. Another problem that confronts Commonwealth of Nations is that member states no longer grant free movement to immigrants. Member states no longer grant free movement to immigrants from other countries. Take, for example, Britain, that is the colonial master, that is the head of this particular association, introduce the use of visa. If they introduce the use of visa, what do they expect other members to do? That means there is no more free movement of immigrants from other member countries. It is a hindrance. Number 3, problems. Some member states do not recognize the monarch or the British crown as the head of the organization, as the position is not elective. Some member states, because the position of the monarch is permanent, it is not elective. They don't recognize her headship. They don't recognize that the British monarch or British crown is the head of the organization. It is a very big problem to the association. Another problem that confronts the Commonwealth is that this association has no power to compel member states to comply with its decisions, and resolution, because there is no standard army. I said, because there is no standard army, the Commonwealth has no power to compel member states to comply with its decisions and resolutions. It's a very big problem. Number 5, the disappearance of the issue of common currency, which bonds members together. The disappearance of the issues of common currency which bond members together is another problem. The inability of member states to pay their annual subscription is also a serious challenge to the organization. The inability of member states to pay their annual subscription is also a serious challenge to the organization. Another problem that confronts the Commonwealth of Nations is that some member nations have affiliated to different international organizations. Some member nations have affiliated to different international organizations, and this particular issue has weakened the bond of oneness. It has weakened the bond of oneness that existed, and since their loyalty is divided, it is a big challenge to the Commonwealth of Nations. For example, Britain, who is a strong member of Commonwealth of Nations, is also a strong member of EEC, meaning European Economic Community. Another problems that confronts the Commonwealth is that member nations have developed new interests. Member nations have developed new interests that is not conducive to the continued existence of Commonwealth of Nations. Member nations have developed new interests that is not conducive to the continued existence of Commonwealth of Nations. For example, there is establishment of since the establishment of African Union (AU), ECOWAS, European Union, member nations have developed new interests in these areas, in these associations. Again, we have ideological differences of member states. Some countries are pro-Western, while some member states are pro-Eastern blocs. There is ideological differences where some members are Western affiliated, some are Eastern affiliated. Again, inadequate fund for the execution of projects. Without fund, organizations cannot carry out its projects, and inability of some members to pay their subscription will bring inadequate fund for the execution of projects. Again, there is political instability in some of the members, especially developing countries. There is political instability in some of the member states, especially the developing countries. There is incessant intervention of military, change of government in most countries, especially the developing countries of Commonwealth. Again, member nations pursue different foreign policies. Member nations pursue different foreign policies suitable to them. It is a problem. Finally, we also identify that there is racial and cultural differences among member states. We also identified that there is racial and cultural differences among member states, despite the fact that it was in their conditions of membership. There shouldn't be any form of racial or cultural differences among members, but still, it was identified as one of the problems that faces Commonwealth of Nations. Okay, my students, you have heard it all. We have itemized the problems of Commonwealth of Nations. We have highlighted the achievements. We have also identified the benefits. We have explained the organs. We also have given you the overview of the body, that's the Commonwealth, how it came about, the origin. Now, it is left for you to read ahead of your teacher, to make more research, to make sure that you study very hard, because very soon you'll be called back to write your external exams. Now, take your assignment. We normally give assignment at the end of every lesson. Take your assignment, please, and make sure you do it. You go for research, you make references, you send it back to me for me to mark. Number 1 assignment. Number 1 question. Find the names of the 54 countries of Commonwealth. Find the names of the 54 countries of the Commonwealth and names of the Secretary Generals that have served in the Commonwealth from inception till date, and names of the Secretary Generals that have served in the Commonwealth from inception till date, and send your answers to the email address. To the email address FGC Port Harcourt digital class, that is FGC Port Harcourt, FGC PHC dgclass@gmail.com. I'll take it again. Send your assignment to the email address FGCPHC dgclass@gmail.com. Thank you and have a pleasant day. Goodbye.